Welcome to the Life After 50 show. Hi, I'm Katherine Watson. Happy to be back here again today, this 20th of August. Yes, it's the 20th of August. We are hosted today, or sponsored rather, by FindHoustonSeniorCare.com. Find Houston Senior Care is a web directory for the greater Houston area to help you navigate all of the changes and challenges that you have trying to find senior care in Houston, Texas. So go visit findhoustonseniorcare.com. Today, I'm here with a new friend of mine, Annette Piper. She's a life and business coach, and she has a lot of great information to share with us today. I'm going to bring her up in just a minute, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about her. Annette started her business in 2002 after being laid off from a job she had for 21 years. Now, I know a lot of the people watching this show today are probably in that kind of situation. I know there's been a lot of layoffs with different companies in the last few years. A lot of my friends worked for HP and have been laid off in their mid-50s and trying to figure it out. What do I do next? Also, I know that there's a lot of you out there that are starting new businesses. Maybe you just started that home care company or some other type of business. Annette's here to help you navigate those life changes. There's more of you out there that are also challenged with maybe you're taking care of an aging parent. So we're going to talk about all of those things and more. We're going to talk about navigating life's transitions in midlife. So I'm going to bring Annette Piper up, and she'll be here in just a couple of minutes or seconds. Hi, Annette. Great to have you on the show today. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
Good, good. So, like I was telling the audience today, we've got, you're going to talk about navigating those life transitions. And I know you have been through a lot of life transitions. Can you tell us just a little bit about your life in the last, decade or so and how it has changed?
You bet. So you talked about how I was laid off from my job after 21 years. And that was actually, I was in my early 40s when that happened. And so from there, I started a lifestyle and fitness coaching business. And then, and I went back to college, got a degree in psychology. Then I went to work again for 3 years doing coaching for another expert. And then when I was 50, when I hit 50, I was laid off from that job. I was in the middle of starting a new business, going more into business coaching. My website was taken down. I left my marriage of 22 years. It was just like one thing after another. My mother went into the hospital. We didn't know she was going to make it. She had some serious health issues. And this all happened probably within 6 months. Wow. And so, yeah, it was just a huge shift. Some of it unexpected, some of it expected. But so from there, I left my marriage. I went through divorce, started my new business. And I guess it was around 2013. The rental home that I was in, I needed to move out of there. My mom was having some health issues and some challenges and needed support. So I moved in with her into her basement. And so it was kind of a win-win for both of us. She needed some help. I needed someplace to go. And so that's what I've been doing for the last, I guess, 10 years is growing my business, taking care of my mother. I have a son that still lives here who's also had some health challenges. And so keeping him on track and helping him grow and develop. And yeah.
Well, you know what? Your story is not that uncommon these days. I mean, everybody has their own variation of it, but there's so many of us out there that have been, challenged with all of these changes. And like you said, they seem to come boom, 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 boom. And so you figured it out, and that's why we want you on the program today, so you can help some of those people that are out there, and maybe it's just happened to them. Maybe they're right in the middle of this mess, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know where to go, and they need help. I know you coach a lot of people over 50. What are some of the challenges that you've helped them help to coach them through?
Well, I think some of the challenges I've really helped with, because I do business coaching, so I coach them on growing their business, but also getting out of their own way so that they can grow their business, especially those that have come from a corporate environment and now they're shifting into their own business. It's a huge shift. I mean, being in corporate and being an entrepreneur are two totally different animals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you've got to develop a whole new mindset. You're on your own to create your own revenue and income in your business. When you have a bad day, you really don't have the luxury often until you get your business up and going of taking just a day off. Like, you don't get a paid sick day. So there's a lot of different shifts that come with that. And so I help people through that, and also with the growth strategies to grow a business. And even then, when you're laid off from a corporate job, it's, especially if you've been there for a while or you weren't expecting it, you have to go through a grief phase. There's a loss. You lose a lot of your friends, a lot of your contacts, your routine, your stability. And so there's also a grieving process that goes with that I help people through.
I think that's an important thing to mention, because we typically tend to think about grief as when somebody dies, but there's many times, especially during midlife, that people find themselves grieving a lost job, a lost opportunity, a lost marriage, many, many different things. My mother-in-law developed severe dementia, my mom, and then my mother-in-law. This was a grieving process. Even though they were still alive, we had to grieve the loss of who they were and what was supposed to happen, and our belief and our views on what we thought was supposed to happen. So I think that's important to point out.
Well, and I think we also grieve during the aging process. We grieve the loss of our youth. We grieve the loss of energy, shifts in our physical health, and hormone changes. I mean, there's so much that comes with aging, and we may look at someone that is so energetic and hasn't, had that experience of maybe putting on a little bit of weight when their hormones change. I don't know if men experience that, but I know many women do. And so there's, we start seeing the wrinkles. And so there's a whole grieving process that also comes with aging. And so really helping people to have that healthy perspective of really what the aging process is, and the gifts and the wisdom and the ability to impact other people's lives that they didn't have when they were younger, and helping them recognize and own those gifts.
Absolutely. I think that's so important, Annette. We do grieve the loss of who we were, and it's having to learn how to embrace who we are and who we're becoming, and looking at those gifts. So I thank you for bringing that up. What types of mindset strategies do you teach people who are dealing with midlife change? Are there some specific strategies and techniques that you use to help people?
Well, I have a million strategies that I use. Some are very quick. For me, there's a lot of mind shift techniques that I've come up with that are quick to shift when we catch ourselves ruminating about the past, or ruminating about a situation or going into our little pity parties, which we all experience, and just having some quick strategies. So I have one called Miracle Mode, where when I catch myself in that, I just flash my hand in front of my face and say, whoa, Miracle Mode. And then I ask myself, what do I want to think about instead? So we need something that provides us a quick state change so that we can change our current state and do an interrupt on that so that we can shift more easily. But then in the bigger picture, just helping people understand what their gifts are, having them look at their past and what they've been through and how they can use that to fuel their purpose in the world, to give back to others, to enjoy life and say, wow, I'm past that stage of having to raise babies. And, that's kind of a crazy stage for those of us that are parents. And so you kind of get a break from that and, doing some forward looking. What goals do you have? What do you want your life to be as you age, and having them envision the possibilities instead of looking at what they've lost. So those are some things that I use to help people through. Like I said, I've got a million little quick strategies to help people quickly shift their mindset and their unresourceful states.
That, I think if everybody would do some coaching around some of these issues in their 50s and in their 60s, I think we would see a much healthier 80 and 90-year-old person on the average out there. There's a lot of people who are very healthy at 80 and 90, but I think we would see a lot more of that. And I'm not sure, it looks like my camera just went out. So if you don't mind, I'm going to refresh. And come back here. I see Annette there. There I am. Okay. Technical difficulties. We got to deal with them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That happens. Okay. Sorry about that, Annette. Yeah, like I was saying, I think, if more people would take some time in their 50s and 60s to reflect and to maybe work with a coach and go through, because we all have these issues come up. Some of us choose to talk about them, and some of us choose to stuff them down inside and hide them. And I think those of us who can get them out and talk about them and look at the changes will experience greater health going forward in our life. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And like I said, I live with my mother. She's 84, and I see her do that as well. She'll catch herself in an unproductive situation or mindset, and sometimes with some encouragement from me, and sometimes just on her own, she stops and she reassesses stuff, and then she looks at how blessed she truly is. And even though there's challenges, we all have them, she's able to sit back and say, wow, I am really blessed. There's a reason why I'm still here, and I'm just going to keep moving forward.
Yeah. My mother and I started something I dubbed the gratitude game. After Daddy died, they had been married for 67 years. So you can imagine the grieving process she was going through and the fear and all of that. And we started doing a gratitude process where I would tell her 5 things I was grateful for that day, and she would tell me 5 things she was grateful for that day. And we did this every day up until she could not speak anymore. And then I continued to do my gratitudes, and I know she heard them. But it really made a big shift for her. Because she was in extreme fear mode. And I think a lot of women, I've had friends whose husbands have died in their 60s, and the women are in their late 50s or their early 60s. They're still really young, and they're trying to figure out how to handle this new life that has suddenly been thrust on them, and what to do. And I think gratitude is one that has always worked for me. So
Absolutely. I write in a gratitude journal every morning at least 5 things that I'm grateful for. And that's a practice that I adopted, probably about 10 years ago.
mhm.
And I just continue because not only does it start my day in a higher vibration, uh, it just really helps me to realize how blessed I truly am. Even
Mhm.
when my life is in the toilet, we all have those toilet times, but it just, there's always something you can find to be grateful for, whether it's your cup
Yeah.
of coffee in the morning, whether it's, wow, I had a hot shower, I have a washer and dryer. I mean, it doesn't have to be some like profound thing that you're grateful for. It can be something just small. I'm so grateful I had a bed to sleep in last night.
That's right.
So there's always things you can find to be grateful for.
That's so true. That's so true. S- uh, Annette, one thing I want to touch on, because I know a lot of our listeners have either brought an aging parent in to live with them, or they're moving in with their aging parent to help care for them. What suggestions would you give them to help make that transition work? Because it's going to be difficult for both sides. It's a change. You've been in different roles. Now you're coming back together again. How do you make that work? What are some of the tips and suggestions that you would give somebody in that situation?
First of all, I would say you've got to build your patience muscles. And that patience muscle goes both ways because you have not been in that living situation for many, many years. You both come through a lot of life changes and you're going to push each other's buttons.
Mhm.
And so you need to have some patience. You need to be able to take a deep breath when your buttons are pushed and do your best not to react, and then come up with a productive solution. So that's the first thing I would say is be
Mhm.
prepared to exercise your patience muscles. And
Mhm.
then also embracing the beautiful opportunity that you have. It's a beautiful opportunity to be able to help your parent. And my mom helps me just as much as I help her. She
Mhm.
keeps me on track. Sometimes when I get into complaint mode, she'll remind me of everything that I'm blessed with. And I also, I think, I watched a friend of mine whose mother developed Alzheimer's disease, and watched what she went through with her. And then when her mom passed away, she just looks back and cherishes that time that she had
Mhm.
to spend with her mother to help take care of her, to be there for her. And I think that's important, to focus on the big picture and say, you know what, I'm doing the ultimate service. I'm caring for someone who cared for me when I needed it most, and now they need the support, and I have the ability to give that to them. And when, at the end of my life, I know I'm always going to treasure the time that I was able to spend with my mother.
Yeah,
And so that's another thing I would suggest, is just looking at the big picture and knowing that you are doing the ultimate service, and that you also have such a great opportunity to learn from your
absolutely.
parent.
Yes, yes, yes. There are still lessons to be learned, right?
Absolutely.
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 Yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the tools and tips? I know you're big into health and fitness, and it's really more and more important as we get older. I mean, it's important throughout our whole life. And hopefully, anybody who's younger that's listening to this really gets start soon, 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 soon. The sooner the better. But if you haven't started soon, and now you're in your 60s, maybe even your 70s, how do you get started? And what are some suggestions and tips for maintaining health and improving your health as you age?
Oh, and that's a really good question. I like that. I would say the first thing, if you want to get started into some kind of fitness wellness routine, first of all, you want to talk with your physician and make sure that there aren't some limitations that you need to be looking out for. There's if you tap into your community, there's also tons of resources for seniors. There's silver sneaker programs that you can get involved in. Here locally, we have an orthopedic specialty hospital that offers arthrofit classes for people that are maybe challenged with arthritis or some body issues. And just start small. Don't overwhelm yourself when you get started. And if you get off track, and I say get off track because most of us do, it's hard to maintain. As an example, I was in an auto accident in December. And so now I feel like I'm starting all over again because I got off track going through the healing process. Don't be hard on yourself. Just, give yourself that space to say, okay, I got off track. I want to get back on. What are the steps that I need to take to get started? And don't make some 90-day goal. Make a week goal. Make a 30-day goal. I used to make 90-day goals all the time when it came to health and fitness. And what I discovered is I wouldn't get started until I was close to the 90 days. But a 30-day goal on health and fitness, it just seems like, I've only got 30 days. And so it's easier to start right away, easier to avoid procrastination when you have a 30-day goal, a little bit shorter term goal. And so I would also suggest doing that and then being patient with yourself. You're probably going to hurt. You're probably going to be sore when you start exercise. And then also when it comes to eating, you can start with little changes. Decide what it is that you want to let go of in your eating and what you want to bring in. So maybe you want to let go of eating sugary desserts at night. What can you bring in instead? A hot cup of tea, some raw nuts, something that's a little more healthy, but being clear on what it is, not just say, I need to go on a diet, but really being clear on how you want to change your lifestyle and your eating.
Yeah, my husband a lot of times likes to eat chips, and I try to avoid eating a lot of chips. So I've gotten to where I have frozen cherries in the freezer. I get them at Costco, and I get a handful of frozen cherries, and I've got something kind of crunchy to munch on because they're frozen and they're delicious. And I feel that satisfaction that I'm eating something that's healthy for me, opposed to the chips. And I think that makes me feel better throughout the day. I know when I'm following a good diet, I feel better about myself and I have more energy.
Absolutely. And that leads me to another big thing that comes with getting on a health plan for yourself is be committed. It's easy to say, I'm going to do this, and I've done this before. I mark it off on my calendar, but unless I strongly commit to myself, it's still easy just to do the same old thing. So you got to have that strong commitment that, yes, I'm going to change what I'm doing here, and then map it out. Here's the steps that I'm going to take every day to make sure that this happens, and then stick with it.
And I think what you were saying earlier about little small steps, doing one thing, starting, integrate that, and then bring in another small thing. I think too many times we try to do it all at one time and make huge changes. And then we kind of shut down. We get overwhelmed with it all and we kind of shut down. I've seen myself do that.
Exactly. And sometimes with the huge changes, those are hard to maintain. So yes. I've done 30-day eating plans, which are good. They do a whole metabolic reset, but those are really hard to maintain beyond the 30 days. Mm-hmm. So you've got to have a plan in place beyond the 30 days, or it's just so easy to get off track. And I know this because I do it. You know, you get off track and then you got to recommit, you've got to reset your goals, and you got to remake your plan. So those little steps are the ones that are lasting.
I think so. I think so. Absolutely. What other strategies can you talk about that would help people who are trying to break through some of the fear about change and aging? I know I'm one of those crazy people that just thrives on change. I really do. I love change. I like something new. I get bored if I'm stagnant. But most people are not like that. And I know, like my husband, for instance, he struggles with change, and a lot of people do. And it seems like they procrastinate, and it takes them so much longer to get things done. What would you suggest to somebody who's stuck in that place where they're procrastinating? They know they need to change. They know change is coming. It's inevitable, right?
Exactly.
There's nothing in life that's more constant than change. It's going to happen. But yet we try to avoid it. What can we do?
Well, I think first of all, you've got to keep in mind that when change is on the preface, it's right there. You can either move through that with ease and grace, or you can procrastinate. And then what happens is the universe comes in and hits you upside the head with the cosmic 2x4 because you didn't do it with ease and grace. So something happens, like a car accident, an illness, something that makes you shift what you're doing. It is the wake-up call. And so when you feel that fear coming up that you don't want to change, you just got to remind yourself that if I don't shift with ease and grace, then chances are it's going to hit me hard later on. And then you've got the drama that goes with it, the chaos, and it might be financially costly, where if you just breathe through that. And then also when change comes along, we tend to close off our heart. We tend to go into a protective mode, roll our shoulders forward, we get neck problems, we have all kinds of issues. And when you find yourself in that fear and find yourself closing off, just throw open your arms and just breathe and embrace it. And just say, I embrace these changes that are coming, because you're much more likely to move through things when you're coming from an expansive position than a contracted position. And that's where working with a coach or a counselor, someone that can help you in these life shifts, navigate through some of this stuff and remind you, expand your chest, embrace the change, feel the fear and do it anyway, as Dr. Susan Jeffers wrote in her book of the same title. And it's tough. We like to be comfortable, even though sometimes our comfort zones are anything but comfortable. They're familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like to call them our familiar zones, because we're familiar with it. It's that devil is better than the devil you don't know, right? And we like our lives to be predictable.
Yeah.
Yet,
and they're anything but.
Yes.
They're anything but. Yeah. Annette,
and so we
could talk for a long time, but unfortunately we're running towards the end of the show. I am going to put up Annette's web address here, AnnettePiper.com. If any of you want to get in touch with Annette, or you want to find out a little bit more about her and what she does, go to AnnettePiper.com and reach out to her. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really, really appreciate it. I think you had some great ideas, some great tips for everybody. And again, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
All right. So again, this is Catherine Watson with the Life After 50 show, sponsored by FindHoustonSeniorCare.com. Next week, we've got a Sacred Choice will be on talking about funerals. And I know that's not your favorite topic, but you need to tune into this because there's a lot of things you don't know about planning funerals that you need to know. So join me next week. As always, the Life After 50 show is live on Facebook at 11 a.m. on Mondays. It is also replays are on Facebook, and they're also on findhoustonseniorcare.com. Thanks again for showing up, and have a great day, everybody. Thanks, Annette.